The jungle was alive with the sound of birds and insects, but under the surface, something ancient was waiting. The thick trees stood tall like guardians, their roots twisting into the ground, their leaves covering the sky above. The air was heavy and warm, filled with the scent of wet soil and growing plants. It seemed like a normal day, yet far beneath the ground, stone walls that had been buried for centuries began to stir. Aaron pushed his way through the vines, holding a map that was worn and faded. He was not a treasure hunter. He was a researcher, a man who believed in history and the hidden truths of the past. For months he had been following stories told by villagers, stories about a temple that had once touched the sky but had been swallowed by the earth long ago. Many laughed at him, saying it was nothing but a tale to frighten children. But Aaron believed that legends carried seeds of truth. Behind him, 3 others followed. Lena, a quiet but sharp-eyed woman who carried the notebooks and recording devices, was careful with every step. Omar, strong and full of energy, cleared the path with a machete, chopping vines and branches. The last was Mateo, an old villager who had agreed to guide them. His face was lined with age and his voice was low, but his eyes carried the weight of memory. "You must understand," Mateo said as he moved slowly between the trees. "The temple was never meant to be found. The forest buried it for a reason." Aaron listened but did not answer. He respected Mateo's warnings, but he also knew that human history was incomplete. Too much had been lost. Too many questions remained. If there was a chance that this temple held answers, he could not walk away. The group reached a clearing where the ground was uneven, broken by roots and rocks. Aaron stopped and studied the land. His map showed markings here, and the villagers had said the earth sometimes shook in this place. The others watched him as he knelt and pressed his hand against the soil. It was warm, warmer than it should have been. Before he could speak, the ground trembled. Birds flew from the trees, their wings cutting through the air in panic. The shaking grew stronger, and the earth split open with a sound like thunder. Lena cried out and grabbed a tree for balance. Omar pulled Mateo back from the cracking ground. Aaron stayed where he was, his eyes wide with both fear and wonder. The soil broke apart, and vines were torn away as a massive stone block rose upward. More blocks followed, one after another, lifting into the sunlight. Dust and roots fell as the shape of walls began to appear. The jungle groaned as if fighting against the change, but the temple continued to rise higher and higher until its top reached above the trees. It was a sight none of them could believe. After centuries of silence, a forgotten structure had awakened. The walls were carved with symbols, some familiar as Mayan patterns, others strange and unknown. They glowed faintly, pulsing as though alive. Mateo fell to his knees, whispering words under his breath. His voice shook as he said, "It should have stayed buried. The temple was not built only by men. It carries the mark of the sky." Aaron stepped closer, drawn by the light. His heart pounded, but not with fear. He felt something inside, a pull stronger than any warning. The carvings seemed to speak to him even though he could not read them yet. Lena raised her camera, her hands trembling as she took pictures. "This is not possible," she whispered. "Stone does not move like this. Buildings do not rise on their own." Omar stared, his strong hands clenched around the machete, though he knew the blade would be useless against whatever this was. "Maybe we should leave," he said. "Maybe this is not for us." But Aaron shook his head. "We came for answers, and answers are here." The temple stood complete now, a giant among the trees. Its steps were broad, leading upward to a central entrance. From the opening came a faint glow, like fireflies hidden inside. The air grew cooler around it, as though the structure carried its own breath. Mateo rose slowly, still shaking his head. "I will not go inside," he said. "I promise to bring you here, but my promise ends at this door. Beyond it waits danger, and not all dangers wear the face of men." Aaron placed a hand on the old man's shoulder. "You have done enough," he said softly. "Rest here. We will go further." Mateo looked at him with sorrow. "Be careful. Some knowledge is heavy. It can break the one who carries it. Aaron nodded but turned his gaze back to the temple. His steps carried him forward, and Lena and Omar followed. Together they climbed the stone steps that had been hidden for ages. Each step echoed, as though the temple itself listened. When they reached the entrance, Aaron placed his hand on the stone wall. The carvings glowed brighter under his touch. For a moment he felt a warmth flow into his skin, as if the temple recognized him. He pulled his hand back quickly, surprised, but the glow remained. They entered a wide chamber, where light from hidden lines in the walls revealed ancient drawings. The figures showed people standing beside tall shapes, not human, pointing to the stars. There were scenes of farming, of building, of learning. The people in the carvings looked up with trust, as though guided by those taller beings. Lena walked slowly, recording every detail. "These are not just stories," she said. "This is history." Omar ran his hand over the stone, shaking his head. "This is too much. If this is true, it changes everything we thought we knew." Aaron stood silent, staring at the star patterns carved into the ceiling. They were not random. He recognized some of the constellations, but others were strange, not of Earth. His breath caught. This was not just a temple. It was a message left behind. A deep sound rumbled through the chamber. The walls trembled, and the carvings pulsed brighter. Aaron's eyes widened as he realized the temple was not finished awakening. It had more to reveal. They turned as part of the floor shifted and opened. A staircase appeared, leading downward into darkness. The air that rose from below was cool and filled with the scent of stone untouched by time. Arun's voice was calm but firm. "This is where we go next." Lena hesitated, fear in her eyes but curiosity stronger than her doubt. Omar sighed, gripping his machete tighter. Behind them, from outside the temple, Mateo called out in warning, his voice trembling with urgency. "Do not go deeper, there are things buried for a reason." But Arun could not stop. The temple had risen after centuries of silence, and he knew why. It was waiting for humanity to return, and he would not turn away from its call. The stone staircase stretched down into the earth, narrow and steep, as if leading to the heart of the world itself. Aaron stepped carefully, one hand brushing against the wall where ancient carvings glowed faintly. Lena followed close behind, holding a small light, though the glow from the walls almost made it unnecessary. Omar came last, silent and tense, his grip tight on the machete he carried more for comfort than use. The air grew cooler as they descended. The sounds of the jungle faded until only the echo of their footsteps remained. It was as though they were walking deeper into another age, a place untouched by time. Aaron's heart beat with both excitement and caution. He felt that every step carried him closer to a truth hidden for centuries. At the bottom, the staircase opened into a vast chamber. The ceiling was high, supported by massive stone pillars covered in carvings. Strange patterns ran across the walls, not only Mayan symbols but something more complex, something that seemed almost like language mixed with diagrams. In the center of the chamber stood a raised platform. Upon it rested a structure made of stone and metal, gleaming faintly under the glowing walls. Lena's breath caught in her throat. "This does not look like anything from our history," she whispered. Omar walked slowly around the platform, his eyes darting to every shadow. "It looks like a machine," he said. "But how could a machine survive for so long?" Aaron approached the structure. He could see that it was built with perfect precision, the stones fitting together seamlessly with lines of metal running between them. The surface carried markings that pulsed faintly as if alive. He reached out but stopped, remembering how the temple walls had responded to his touch before. Mateo's words returned to him. "Some knowledge is heavy. It can break the one who carries it." Still, Aaron could not turn back. He stepped closer and gently placed his hand on the surface. The moment his skin touched the stone, the entire chamber responded. The markings glowed brighter, and the air hummed with energy. The platform trembled, and then a beam of light rose from its center, stretching upward toward the ceiling. Patterns formed inside the beam, moving like a river of symbols. Lena gasped, her eyes wide as she recorded everything. "It is like the temple is alive," she whispered. Aaron stared at the shifting patterns. He recognized some of them from his studies of Mayan script, but many were unknown. Still, something in him seemed to understand their meaning, as if the knowledge had been waiting inside him all along. The beam shifted again, projecting shapes into the air. At first they looked like simple lines, but then they formed into a map of stars. Constellations appeared, some familiar, others unlike anything seen from Earth. Dots connected by glowing lines stretched into the vast unknown. Omar's voice was quiet, almost fearful. "That is not just a map of our sky. Those are other stars, other places." Aaron nodded slowly. "This is not only a temple, it is a message. A map left behind by someone who wanted us to follow." Mateo's voice carried faintly from above, though he had not followed them down. "I told you. It was not built only by men. The sky was part of its making." Lena stepped closer to the beam, her eyes shining with wonder. If this is true, then the Mayans were in contact with beings from beyond. They were not alone. They had guides. Omar shook his head, struggling to accept it. "And now what? Do we follow a map across the stars? We cannot even survive this jungle without fear." But Aaron was not afraid. His curiosity was stronger than his doubt. "We are meant to understand this. Why else would it rise now after centuries? The temple waited for us." As if answering his words, the carvings on the wall shifted. Scenes appeared that told a story. Figures of people stood side by side with tall shapes, their hands raised together. There were drawings of farming, of building, of learning. Then came scenes of ships rising into the sky, carrying lights into the heavens. Lena touched the wall gently, her eyes filled with awe. "It is history written in stone. They wanted us to remember, but we forgot. Now the temple reminds us." Suddenly the hum of energy grew louder. From the far side of the chamber, stone doors began to slide open. Aaron turned quickly, his heart racing. The opening revealed another passage leading deeper, its edges glowing faintly. Omar stepped back, shaking his head. "No, this is too much. We do not know what waits inside. We should leave before it is too late." But Arun's gaze remained fixed on the passage. He felt that every part of the temple was designed to guide them step by step, testing their courage and curiosity. "If we stop now," he said, "we will never know the full truth." Lena looked torn between fear and wonder. She knew Omar's caution was wise, yet her heart leaned toward Arun's certainty. Finally she nodded. "We cannot walk away. If this is knowledge left for us, we must see it through." Reluctantly, Omar followed, muttering under his breath about dangers and traps. The three of them stepped through the new passage, their footsteps echoing once again. This corridor was narrower, its walls lined with strange metallic panels. Some looked like gears and levers, though they moved on their own, humming softly. The glow here was brighter, as if the temple itself grew more alive the deeper they went. At the end, they reached another chamber, smaller but filled with strange devices. In the center stood a tall pillar with a crystal-like stone at its top. The crystal glowed with steady light, casting shifting colors across the walls. Aaron approached carefully. He could feel a vibration in the air like a heartbeat. He raised his hand, then hesitated. Lena whispered, "Be careful." When his hand brushed the crystal, the chamber transformed. The light expanded and the walls vanished in brilliance. Around them appeared visions of the sky, stars turning slowly, planets shining brightly. They were standing in what looked like the universe itself, surrounded by galaxies. Aaron turned slowly, his eyes wide. "It is a star map," he said, his voice trembling with awe. "Not just of our world, but of many worlds." Among the glowing lights, one star pulsed brighter than the rest. Lines connected it to Earth as if showing a path. Arun reached toward it and the vision shifted again. Images filled the air, tall figures with luminous eyes standing before the Mayans, teaching them, guiding them. The images showed gifts of knowledge, then departure. The beings rose into the sky, leaving behind the temple as a marker. Lena's voice was filled with wonder. "They left because they wanted us to grow on our own. But they gave us a way to find them again." Omar's fear deepened. "Or they left because danger followed them. What if calling them back brings trouble to us?" The vision faded and the chamber returned to normal. Aaron lowered his hand slowly. His mind raced with thoughts, questions, and possibilities. He felt both the weight of discovery and the thrill of it. He turned to his companions. "This temple is not only a monument, it is a bridge, and it has been waiting for us to awaken it." From above, faint tremors shook the ground again. Dust fell from the ceiling. It was as if the temple itself was warning them that their journey had only begun. Aaron stood tall, determination in his eyes. We cannot turn back now. We must see where this path leads. The others exchanged uneasy glances, but in their hearts they knew the truth. They were no longer simple explorers in the jungle. They had stepped into a story that stretched beyond Earth itself, and the temple was guiding them deeper into its secrets. The chamber still hummed with quiet energy, long after the vision had faded. Aaron stood in silence, his hand slowly dropping from the glowing crystal. His heart pounded with a mix of awe and fear. He had seen stars he could not name, worlds beyond imagination, and beings that seemed like guardians of ancient knowledge. Lena was still recording with shaky hands, her eyes wide with wonder. "Do you understand what this means?" she whispered. "This temple holds proof that humans were never alone. History, all of it, has been waiting for us here." Omar, however, shook his head. His voice was low, filled with unease. "You saw it too. They were powerful, yes, but they left. They left for a reason. What if they abandoned this place because it was dangerous? What if calling them back brings something worse?" Aaron turned to him calmly. "What if they left it because they wanted us to grow strong enough to claim our place? What if they trusted us?" Omar did not reply. His eyes remained on the crystal as if expecting it to come alive again. The ground rumbled beneath them. Dust drifted down from the ceiling. The walls lit up brighter than before, their carvings shifting as though alive. New passages appeared, sliding open with deep grinding sounds. Aaron felt the temple was guiding them onward. "We are being shown the way," Aaron said. "We cannot stop now." They followed the glow into a corridor that curved downward. The deeper they went, the cooler the air became, carrying a metallic scent. The glow grew stronger until it bathed the passage in pale light. Omar muttered under his breath, but he kept walking, his machete clutched tightly. The corridor ended in a massive circular hall. It was unlike the stone chambers above. The floor was smooth, polished like glass. And in the center stood a structure that seemed both machine and monument. A great sphere floated above a pedestal, spinning slowly, glowing with shifting colors. Around it were tall stone figures carved into the walls, their eyes shining faintly. Lena's voice trembled. "It looks like an energy core. But how could something like this exist so long ago?" Aaron stared at the glowing sphere, his mind racing. "This is the heart of the temple, the power that kept it alive while buried. And maybe more than that. It feels like it is waiting for something." As if in answer, the sphere pulsed. A wave of light spread across the chamber. The walls lit up with moving images again. This time they showed the temple rising from the earth, beams of energy shooting upward into the sky, connecting with distant stars. Omar stepped back. "No, this is a beacon. If we activate it fully, it will call them back. Or worse, it will call something else." Aaron's eyes were locked on the vision. "It is a bridge between worlds, a gift. We must see what it can do." He reached toward the pedestal, his hand trembling with both fear and determination. Lena gasped softly, but she did not stop him. When his fingers touched the edge, the sphere flared with brilliant light. The chamber shook, and the floor beneath them vibrated like a heartbeat. From the walls, the tall stone figures stepped forward. At first, Lena thought they were only carvings coming alive in the light. But as they moved, heavy and deliberate, she realized they were something more. Guardians made of stone and energy, created to protect the heart of the temple. Omar raised his machete, though it looked like a toy compared to the massive guardians. "I knew it. Traps. We should never have touched it." The guardians stood in a circle around the group. Their eyes glowed with shifting colors. They did not attack at once, but instead blocked the exits as if waiting. Aaron realized they were not mindless protectors. They were testing. "They are watching us," he said quietly. "Not to kill us, but to judge us." One guardian stepped forward, raising its hand. A beam of light shot from its palm and struck the ground in front of Aaron, forming a glowing pattern. Aaron recognized it as a puzzle, a shifting design of symbols and lines. "They want us to prove we can understand," Aaron whispered. Lena knelt by the pattern, studying it. It is like the star map, symbols connected to constellations. She began drawing in her notebook, her brow furrowed. If we connect them in the right way, it might calm them. The guardians stood motionless, their glowing eyes fixed on the group. Omar paced nervously, sweat on his forehead. "And what if we fail? What happens then?" Aaron did not answer. He knew failure was not an option. He knelt beside Lena, studying the symbols. Slowly, he traced lines between them, forming shapes that matched constellations he had seen in the earlier vision. The patterns glowed brighter as he connected them. Finally, with a trembling hand, Aaron completed the last connection. The pattern flared and vanished into the floor. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the Guardians stepped back in unison. Their eyes dimmed and their massive forms lowered their heads as if in respect. "They accepted us," Aaron said softly, relief in his voice. Lena let out a shaky breath. "They were never meant to harm us, only to test us, to see if we were worthy of the knowledge." Omar lowered his machete but did not relax. Or maybe this was only the first test. What if worse trials wait ahead? The sphere pulsed again, brighter than before. This time the light shot upward, piercing the ceiling. Aaron felt it go beyond the temple, through the jungle into the sky itself. He knew the signal was traveling, a message being sent across the stars. Lena stared upward, her voice filled with awe. "We just told them we are here. Whoever they are, wherever they are, they know Earth is awake again." The Guardians stepped back to the walls, returning to stillness as though they had never moved. The chamber grew quiet except for the soft hum of the sphere. Aaron felt a heavy responsibility settle on his shoulders. "This is the beginning," he said. "The temple has chosen us. Now others will hear the call." They stood in silence, each lost in thought. Omar's fear, Lena's wonder, and Arun's determination filled the chamber like three separate currents. At last Arun turned back to the passage. "We must return to Mateo. He must know what we have found. And then we must decide what to do with it." As they climbed back through the winding corridors, the glow of the temple followed them, dimming only as they reached the entrance. Outside, the jungle was quiet, the air heavy with the scent of rain. The temple stood tall above the trees, its carvings glowing faintly in the fading light of day. Mateo was waiting at the base of the steps, his face pale. He had heard the tremors, seen the light shoot into the sky. "You woke it," he said, his voice trembling. "The temple's heart is alive again. Do you understand what you have done?" Aaron met his gaze. "We have awakened more than stone. We have awakened a connection. Humanity is no longer alone." Mateo shook his head, sorrow in his eyes. "You may have called back friends, but you may also have called back enemies. Be careful what you wish for, Aaron. The sky is not always kind." The jungle was silent around them, as if holding its breath. Arun looked at the glowing temple, then at the endless sky above. He knew their journey was only beginning, and whatever came next would test not just them, but all of humanity. The temple had awakened. Its power had been revealed. And across the stars, someone or something was listening. The night sky stretched above the jungle, dark and endless, filled with glittering stars. The newly risen temple glowed faintly, its carvings alive with moving light. From its top, a thin beam of energy still reached upward, cutting through clouds and vanishing into the heavens. It pulsed steadily, like the heartbeat of something that had just awakened after centuries of silence. Aaron stood on the temple steps, staring at the sky. His thoughts raced. He could not stop wondering if someone, somewhere far away, was looking back. He felt the weight of history pressing down on him. This was no longer only about his research. This was about the place of all humans in the universe. Behind him, Lena adjusted her equipment, recording every detail. She was restless, moving quickly, her hands shaking. "The signal is not random," she said. "It has a pattern, repeating every few minutes. It is designed to be read, not just seen." Omar paced at the bottom of the steps, uneasy. His eyes flicked to the jungle around them. "You both talk about this like it is exciting. But think about it. We just sent a message into the sky, calling out to anyone who can hear. Do you know who might answer?" Mateo sat quietly nearby, his old hands resting on his knees. His gaze never left the glowing walls of the temple. When he finally spoke, his voice was heavy. The ancestors said the sky would answer one day, but no one ever asked if that answer would bring joy or sorrow. Aaron turned to them. His voice was calm, but his heart beat with fire. "We cannot live in fear. Humanity has always looked to the stars. This temple is proof that we were never meant to stay silent forever. We are part of something greater." As he finished speaking, the temple trembled softly. The beam of light grew stronger, brighter, until it lit the entire clearing like daylight. Lena gasped, shielding her eyes. Omar stepped back, gripping his machete, though it would do nothing against light. Then the beam shifted. Instead of rising into the sky, it bent downward, filling the temple's central chamber with a shimmering glow. Arun, Lena, Omar, and Mateo rushed back inside, drawn by the strange event. In the great hall, the energy sphere pulsed again. This time, the light spread outward, forming a shape in the air. Slowly, a tall figure appeared, made of pure light, standing several feet above the ground. Its outline was humanoid but taller, its eyes bright like small suns. Its voice filled the chamber, not with sound, but with a deep vibration that touched their minds directly. "Children of Earth," the voice said, calm and powerful.
"At last you have awakened the temple.
At last you are ready to speak again." Lena froze, her notebook falling from her hands. Omar's face turned pale. Even Mateo, who had warned them again and again, could only whisper a prayer under his breath. Arun stepped forward slowly, his voice shaking but steady enough. "Who are you?" The being's eyes glowed brighter. "We are the ones who walked beside your ancestors. We guided them when they first looked to the stars. We left so you could grow by your own strength, but we left a bridge, a temple, so one day you could find us again." The words filled Arun's heart with both awe and questions. Why now? Why after so many centuries does the temple rise again? "Because you are ready," the being said. "We watched from afar. We waited for the moment when your people could choose their own path. Now the choice stands before you." Omar finally found his voice, his tone sharp. "And what choice is that? To follow you? To serve you?" The being shook its head slowly. "Not to serve, to join. Humanity is strong but alone. The universe holds many voices. Some are kind, some are dangerous. Alone you will be tested. Together you can rise," the words echoed in the chamber. Aaron felt a fire inside him. For so long, humans had looked up at the stars with questions. Now an answer had come. Mateo spoke softly, his voice trembling. "And if we choose not to follow? If we choose silence?" The being's glowing eyes dimmed slightly, as if with sadness. "Then the temple will sleep again. The bridge will close, and humanity will walk its path alone until another age." Silence filled the chamber. The weight of the choice pressed on all of them. Aaron finally said, "We cannot decide for all of humanity. We are only 4 people standing here. How can we carry such a choice?" The being's form shimmered. "You are the first, but your words, your actions will guide the rest. The temple will listen to you. Others will follow." Before anyone could reply, the being raised its hand. The chamber shifted again. The walls dissolved into visions of the stars, brighter than before. Now they saw not only peaceful worlds but also storms of fire, ships in battle, voices of many species echoing across space. Some faces were kind, others sharp and fearsome. "This is the truth," the being said. "The universe is wide. You will not always find peace, but you will find meaning. You will find your place." The visions faded, leaving the group standing in the silent glow once more. The being's form dimmed but did not vanish completely. Aaron stepped forward again. His voice was quiet but filled with determination. "We are not ready now, not fully, but we want to be. We want to grow strong. We want to stand among the stars, not as servants but as equals." The being's light pulsed brighter, as if pleased. "Then prepare. The temple will guide you. When the time comes, the bridge will open fully. Until then, learn, grow, unite." With those words, the figure slowly faded, leaving only the pulsing sphere in the center of the chamber. Lena's hands shook as she picked up her notebook again. "We spoke to them," she whispered. "We spoke across the stars. This changes everything. Everything we know about history, about ourselves." Omar leaned against the wall, his face pale. "Or it brings danger closer. You saw the visions. Not all out there are friendly." Mateo shook his head, his eyes heavy with sorrow. "I prayed for silence. Now the silence is broken. The world will not be the same." But Aaron stood tall, his eyes burning with a quiet fire. "It should not be the same. Humanity has been waiting for this moment since the first time we looked at the sky. The temple has awakened, and so must we." Outside, the night deepened and the jungle lay still. But above the trees, the temple's beam still glowed faintly, stretching into the stars. Somewhere far away, the message had been heard. And somewhere far away, eyes had turned toward Earth once more. The choice had been offered. The bridge had opened. Humanity's future would never again be silent. The sun rose slowly over the jungle, casting golden light across the canopy. The temple stood tall among the trees, its stone walls glowing faintly as if holding on to the night's energy. Arun stood on the steps, staring at the horizon. He had spent the night thinking, pacing, trying to understand the weight of what had happened. The temple had awakened. They had contacted the beings from the stars. Humanity's path had been changed forever. Lena arrived beside him, her eyes bright but tired. "We need to plan," she said softly. "The temple has revealed a bridge, a path to the stars. But we cannot rush. The world is not ready yet." Omar followed slowly, his face set in determination despite the shadows under his eyes. "I still worry," he said. "You saw the visions. Not all out there are friendly. If we open this fully, we might invite danger." Mateo sat on the ground near the base of the steps, resting his old hands on his knees. "I warned you," he said quietly. "I prayed for silence. And now it is gone. The future is uncertain, more than ever. But maybe humanity can rise if it chooses to." Aaron nodded slowly. "That is exactly why we must be careful. We have a responsibility now. The temple gave us knowledge. It gave us guidance. But it also gave us choice, and how we use it will determine the legacy of our people." The group entered the temple's main chamber again. The energy sphere still pulsed in the center, steady and calm. Aaron placed his hand on it, and the carvings on the walls began to glow, showing the visions they had seen the night before. Stars, worlds, beings, they all moved in harmony across the chamber's surface. Lena traced her finger across one of the star maps. "We have the knowledge," she said. "We know where the path is, but we also know that humanity is not ready to travel it alone yet. We need preparation, understanding, and unity." Omar sighed. "And what about those who will want to use this power for themselves? The world is full of greed and fear. The temple is not just a gift, it is a test," Aaron nodded. "Exactly. That is why we cannot act alone. This knowledge must be shared carefully, wisely. The temple is a teacher. It will show us the way, but it cannot make the world ready. That is our responsibility." As they spoke, the temple pulsed once more. A low hum filled the chamber, vibrating through the stone floor. The energy sphere lifted slightly, shining brighter than before. Arun felt a presence, the same calm and powerful feeling they had felt during contact. The being's voice filled their minds again, soft but clear. "Children of Earth, you have awakened the temple and chosen to stand among the stars. The path is open, but the steps must be taken by your own strength. Prepare your people, unite them, teach them courage, wisdom, and hope. When the time comes, the bridge will open fully." Aaron bowed his head in respect. "We understand. We will not fail. Humanity will be ready." The glow from the sphere softened, returning to its steady pulse. The guardians of stone and light remained in their positions along the walls, silent but watchful. Arun knew they were still observing, guiding. They had tested the group before, and now they would continue to guide humanity, if humans were brave and wise enough to follow. Over the next days, Arun, Lena, Omar, and Mateo worked carefully, documenting everything they had discovered. They mapped the carvings, copied the symbols, and recorded the star maps. Every detail was preserved. Arun knew that this knowledge would be dangerous in the wrong hands, so they planned how to share it slowly, responsibly. Outside the temple, the jungle seemed more alive than ever. Birds and insects moved in patterns as if the forest itself had felt the awakening. Local villagers approached cautiously, drawn by the light and whispers of the temple. Mateo spoke with them, telling them only what was necessary, leaving the deeper truths for when humanity was ready to understand. Arun realized that the temple was teaching them patience as much as knowledge. The path to the stars could not be rushed. Humanity had to grow strong and wise before they could cross it safely. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Aaron climbed to the top of the temple steps. The sky was clear, filled with thousands of stars. He looked up and felt a quiet connection with the universe. For the first time, he understood the truth of the temple's message. Humans were never meant to remain silent, never meant to remain small. The future of Earth was bound to the stars, but only if humans could rise to meet the challenge. Lena joined him, holding a small notebook filled with sketches and notes. "It is beautiful," she said softly. "The universe is vast and we are just beginning to understand it." Arun smiled. "And we will understand more, one step at a time. The temple gave us a start. Now it is up to us to continue." Omar came to stand beside them, his worry still present but tempered by respect for what they had seen. "We will need to teach others, not just about the temple but about unity, courage, and wisdom. If we fail, the path could close forever. Aaron nodded. Yes, humanity must rise together, not alone, not divided, but as one people, ready to meet the universe. Mateo's voice carried up from below. You have done well. The temple is safe in your hands. But remember, the world outside is still the world. Keep your heart strong and your minds wise. That night, the temple shone brightly, its carvings alive with faint light. The energy sphere pulsed steadily in the center, a heartbeat for the planet itself. Somewhere far beyond Earth, the beings from the stars had seen the awakening. The bridge was open, but the journey was just beginning. Aaron and his companions knew that this moment would be remembered for centuries. The temple would stand as a guardian, a reminder of humanity's potential. It had risen from the jungle after centuries of silence to teach them, guide them, and test them. And now, humanity had a choice: to rise by their own strength or to remain in the shadows of the past. As the first light of dawn broke over the horizon, Aaron took a deep breath. He felt hope, determination, and pride. The temple had awakened, and so had the human spirit. Lena smiled beside him. The stars are waiting. Omar nodded, a small smile breaking his tension. Then we better be ready. Mateo, watching from below, whispered a quiet blessing. May they rise. May humanity rise. The jungle stirred around them, alive with energy, as though the earth itself celebrated the awakening. And above, the temple remained a silent guardian, glowing with light and knowledge, waiting for the day humanity would walk fully among the stars. For Aaron, Lena, Omar, and Mateo, the journey had changed everything. Humanity's place in the universe had been revealed. And though the path ahead was uncertain, one thing was clear: the legacy of the temple and the legacy of humanity would be written among the stars. The lost Mayan temple, silent for centuries, had risen again, and with it so had the spirit of humanity.